Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We liked our movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained best pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the feedback bit by bit. Sweetie and Sweetie are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast. Hey.
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Santa's podcast, your favorite podcast where two sweetie sisters talk about their favorite flicks from childhood. I'm Sweetie with a Y.
And I'm Sweetie with a I-E.
Hey, we're back. We didn't go anywhere. I just feel like every week we're like, we made it. You know, it just feels like something we should announce.
It's an accomplishment.
Listen.
Make it week to week here in this 2020 of hell.
This week, in traditional Sweetie fashion, she told me to select a film, of which I did, and Sweetie promptly poo-pooed it. But overall, she saw the light and said fine. And so I picked Peter Pan. Why didn't you say it?
Oh my God. Just wasn't ready. And you just jumped way too fast into the title. Yeah. I don't know. You guys give us the feedback. I mean, do you like old Disney movies? Do you like when we cover old Disney movies? Because sometimes I just feel like we don't have as much to talk about.
I have so much to talk about.
I mean, I have some to talk about, but mostly it's like tangent kind of things.
That's fun.
But they are really fun. And now that we have Disney Plus, really they're all there for you. And they always provide a pretty good mood uplift, I will say. I have a very, we've talked about this many a times, nostalgic feeling for all these movies. And when you watch them, it really transports you back. Mm-hmm. Much like the kids get transported back to Neverland, you are transported back to your own childhood.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's poetry.
So Peter Pan from 1953, ding ding, Carol's birth year.
Happy
it's as old as Carol.
birthday to you,
We won't do that. We won't tell you
Happy
because Carol won't want you to know. But if you
We can figure it out.
1953. One of, I'd say growing up, like one of the older ones that was still quite in high rotation when we were kids, right? So we're talking about Lady and the Tramp, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella. From the 50s. We never were in the Snow White. That was one we always kind of like, this is like not
I don't
great.
know. Maybe we should give it another
Yeah,
chance.
maybe we should go back to that one.
It is one of Hitler's favorite movies.
It is. I mean, I remember that being kind of boring and like a little archaic. The dwarves, Seven Dwarves are awesome, but the queen is very scary. Anyway, so this is one definitely that we owned. I remember the clamshell white box puffy case for sure. And one Sweetie here loved quite a bit, right?
Yeah, I don't know why. Like, I just really
It's
enjoyed
fun.
this movie.
I know why. It's
but
fun.
I remember specifically, I think, like, checking out after, like, after saving Tiger Lily. I feel like I never watched further than that.
Yeah, I don't remember the
even,
ending,
like,
like,
watching this,
barely
I was
at
like,
all.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I was like, are they going to make it out? Is Tink dead? I was like, I had no memory of that part of it. So I must have just watched the beginning, which is, like, probably the best part. However... And as with many things from the 50s, when you watch this when you're older, you're like, whoa, this movie is incredibly racist and sexist.
Yes.
And like, really, they should just rename it Bunch of Hot-Headed Dudes and Jealous Women, because that's all it is, plus like horrible racial stereotypes that really made me uncomfortable. And I was telling Sweetie and Sweetie Jimmy with Nye that Disney has started adding these disclaimers to the beginning of their movies that are quite offensive today. And it says something like, we acknowledge the scenes in this movie are like racially insensitive, but we're choosing to keep them so that we can learn by example of like not to do this, or like, you know, to educate you not to do something. So I think it's nice, but as I was watching this, I was like, whoa, but like this is really bad. Like there's some really bad like racial stereotypes regarding black people in like Song of the South that they've really like just completely wiped. It's like that. It's like those don't really exist anymore, even to a point. And there's even a character in Fantasia that they just completely like got rid of that I didn't even realize was a thing. And I feel like they have to do that with Peter because like it's not it's not clear to me that, like how they would treat that same like. We're talking about like huge parts of this movie are just really terrible, right? So like I feel like they need to just like dump it. Like you can't just like cut out the scenes with the Indians. Like you have to like.
Well,
it's
I think
such
they're
like
doing
a
the right
crucial
thing.
part.
I really don't believe in what is happening now, where they're just bulldozing stuff that of people that have maybe unsavory past. I like what Disney did here. I think that's a teachable moment where you have that on the screen and you're saying the representation of Native Americans in this movie, but we don't want to get rid of it because like it's a teaching moment.
Well, then why did they get
Same
rid of
with
the...
like bad statues or removing people's names from buildings and stuff. I mean, maybe there should be plaques that just tell the truth instead of just say, okay, let's wipe this person away from history. Because it's not that that person didn't exist. And
No, but I think there's a difference with like glorifying something, whereas like a statue is like on a very basic level, like something to celebrate, right? Like someone did a great thing, we make a statue of them.
Yeah.
Yay. So I think I see both sides, but I just don't see. I think it's a little weird that they remove the racial stereotypes in movies, but not this one. And this one is like pretty bad. You
Well,
would say, right?
But if you're talking about this period of time in Hollywood, this goes for not just animated movies, literally every Western. I mean, it goes on and on and
Yeah,
on.
but
so you're not going to be able to just toss all those movies out. I think if you grow up in this time period where there is, much better education about Native Americans and Native American tribes and the difference between all of them and all of their different traditions and cultures, that is getting, I think, hopefully better and better. You see a movie like this and you're like, wow, what that was a crazy time. And that's what you think and what you should. Like, you should remember that there was a time when they were doing this to Native Americans. I'm not saying it's not happening now, but that it is getting like better and better.
It's just
And
very
but this
uncomfortable.
this feels more to me like they were just throwing literally every stereotype in the book about Native Americans and plopping them into this film. And now that is racist, if you want to call that. I think it's ignorant as well. You're just looping one group of indigenous people into one and saying they all do these things, right? And this is a fantasy land too. So they're not going to be like, oh yeah, this is the Wampanoag tribe. It's a fantasy land. So they were like building all against like kind of this one thing. Anyway, it's not great, but I think Disney dealt with it in like a interesting way, let's say. I'm more upset about that I watched this movie when I was little and never really clicked with me. Okay, wow. Wendy's kind of not the only woman, but women are other than Wendy, women are treated horribly in this movie. They are basically like all bitchy. Every woman on Neverland is a bitch. And that's because they all are in love with Peter. And when Wendy comes, they're like, oh my God, like he's ours. Right. Terrible. There's kind of, like Wendy gets to Neverland. She's immediately like a slave. She's like being ignored by Peter because he's flirting with other girls in front of her. I mean, like the list goes on. And poor Wendy's like naive and all she wants to do is like not grow up. But when she gets to Neverland, like she's just a mom. She's momming everybody because that's the only role like she has.
Right.
I don't know.
She has to get the firewood. Like,
yeah.
It's bullshit.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, and I just never ever watched that as a young girl and like, you don't. It's stuff you don't realize until you've like been through your life, and you're like, okay, this is kind of bullshit.
It essentially gives you. I think it's sending a very clear message that like if you're not a mother, you are not a positive or not a positive character because they paint all the other people who are not mothers to be villains in a sense. In the fact that they're just like their jealousy takes over everything. So like if you're not a mom, like you're fighting over other women to get a man so that you can become a mom or something. Like it's fucked up.
No. I didn't see it like that at all. I thought it was just more like, okay, you're a woman, you're a mother figure. That's how I saw it. And I think that's kind of like, like, okay, Wendy was the only girl.
Wendy, but like
so
but people who are not moms are not painted in a great light. So it's like, what is that saying?
They're treated as jealous bitches,
Yeah.
which is exactly what men think about women.
Right.
Captain Hook says a jealous woman will do anything, or you can trick her into doing anything.
Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
It means exactly what it
it's
means.
it was a little much for me, but let's put that aside for a second. There's a lot of beauty in this movie. I think the animation is really beautiful, and it is a lot of fun. I can see being a kid. It's 112 minutes, so it's just over an hour. Wait, is that right?
I don't know. We've been this
It's
before.
an hour and 12 minutes.
Okay, I was like, that's really long.
That would be long. It's it's just over an hour, and it goes by like this, and it's really fun in a lot of ways. They do a good job with just all the different scenes in Neverland. The songs are like memorable but not memorable, I'd say. Like you're kind of humming them, but maybe you don't like know the lyrics, kind of a thing. It's a far cry from the, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid era of like songs.
Yeah.
But
more songs than I remembered, and there's definitely a couple that I like didn't remember existed at all. Probably again because I hadn't made it that far into the movie, so I guess that makes sense. But yeah, I was really taken by it, and there's several parts in this that really made me like, oh, I love this part, and like I think I just like parts from this movie, but I think the whole thing as like one is like, whoa, it's too much for me.
Yeah.
So
and like,
that's my
and
stance.
The pirates are great. Captain Hook, his whole persona is really funny. He has like a ton of funny stuff to do and a ton of funny scenes. It put me a little bit on edge with how just the crocodile just like kept trying to get him, and he just was like in his mouth and then out of his mouth, in his mouth, out of his mouth. I was getting a little stressed out by it. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, how come like the pirate he shot off the crow's nest died, but like he can't get swallowed by a crocodile?
Yeah,
like, come on,
never does.
come on.
But yeah, so I mean, obviously, when you're watching this as a kid, all that stuff we're talking about doesn't dawn on you. But what I'm uneasy about is like, does that plant seeds for you though? Like, you watch this stuff when you're a kid, and you're like kind of subconsciously being like taught these things, like whether it's about women, whether it's about the Native American like portrayal and stuff like that. So that's when these like older films make me a little uneasy, because you're like, okay, like it's a fantasy movie, so but like what is going to be the takeaway for kids with this?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, but like, does every form of entertainment have to be totally PC? Can you use them as learning moments with kids and say, hey, like this was in this movie, but it's a bad thing? I don't know. So I'm on the fence with that. I'm still not. I won't totally close the door on Peter Pan, but it's sweet. I didn't really watch it a lot when I was little. I mean, I've definitely seen it like a good amount of times, but I have probably not seen this movie in 20 years at least. But it's fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
So no real famous people in this as the early ones go. They didn't use like big stars or anything. Peter Pan specifically used a lot of voice actors, or seemed like Disney kind of used the same actors and voice actors in a lot of their movies. So immediately when you start watching this, Wendy, if you are familiar with like the Disney canon, you're like, okay, Wendy's voice is
What? Oh, Alice.
right, Alice in Wonderland. So there's no mistake in it. You're like, dang, that bitch is Alice. And then the other one that comes to mind is Smee. So that guy had like collected quite a few paychecks from Walt Disney. He was the White Rabbit, which is very close to Smee once you start listening, because it's like a stutter kind of a thing. And then he was King Hubert, Prince Philip's dad in Sleeping Beauty, the bald guy, kind of rotund.
I don't get the same. Yeah, that's surprising.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wow.
And then Jock from Lady and the Tramp, the Scotty dog. Oh my God, love that movie. Hopefully that one will hold up. That'll just break my heart. I mean, it's dogs. How bad could it be?
Can't be bad.
Yeah, see, that's why I like Disney's got to stick to the dog, like
Stick
animals.
to animals. Don't get into
A
people.
lot less racist and bad.
No, they say the Lion King is pretty racist too.
Damn it.
Yeah, but what else? Is that it for voices?
Yeah. So that was it. They had a lot of older actors. When you look at them, they have creds. One had some Hitchcock creds, which was pretty cool. But they're just older actors that you like wouldn't really notice. But they do a lovely job. The guy who plays the dad and Captain Hook are the same voice actor. Did you know that? I didn't.
I probably would have figured it out. I mean, it makes
That's-
sense because he's supposed to like represent the like. I mean, he's a villain too. The dad is like
right,
terrible
right.
person.
Right, definitely. Apparently, that's how the stage plays goes. So the stage play happened before this, it sounded like. So the book by J.M. Barrie comes first. Then Disney like kept wanting to get the rights to it. It took them a while to do it, but I think the stage play with Mary Martin came out like right before this. So if you've ever seen that, that's pretty fun. You know, they always have Peter Pan played by a woman, so the person who originated that role was this actress named Mary Martin.
And why is that?
Just because, like, I think the vocal range for the songs are only like, and it's supposed to be like a boy, right?
It's weird because they don't like have any songs that Peter sings in this. So you're like, why is he even singing?
Right, but in the musical, like there are, right? Yeah. I've Got a Crow. Do you remember this? So we did in my the place where I did all of my theater work and ballet stuff. We did Peter Pan. It was a really big show. And I remember the song Tender Shepherd, where like Wendy sings and then they're Tender Shepherd. So anyway, so the stage musical is actually pretty fun. That's the one where they have, you know, everyone's on the ropes. So that's like a big thing for the stage musical because they fly and everything. It's pretty fun. I love that one. If you happen to watch the live action version with Allison, what's her name? That was like terrible. Same thing, same play. But yeah, it's an interesting show. But I forgot what I was going to say about that. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we can just start.
Okay.
Launch into it then. Are you ready?
Yep. It's time for the Sweetie Synopsis. Yeah. Sweeties. You can fly, you can fly, you can fly.
Oh. The Darling family is a quaint family in London. They seem very well off and to do. There is the father who is like a crazy, emotional, like gas bag of like fury. I don't really understand. Like he goes from 0 to 100 like so quickly. I'm just concerned. And then you have the mother who seems very sweet, but at the same time you're like, why are you married to this horrible man? It's like Harvey Weinstein, and you're like, why is he have this like nice pretty wife? Like, what is going on? So the children, we have Wendy, unsure how old she's supposed to be. I don't think they ever mention it, but she's the eldest. And then we have John, and then Michael's the little one who wears footy pajamas and is really cute. So these children do not have a traditional nanny. They have a dog whose name is Nana, who unfortunately Nana has, a bad case of OCD, but she seems like a great nurse, they would call it, I guess, which was just like your nanny, like your Mary Poppins who like raised you while your parents went off and went to parties.
Or even more than that, right? So it's like in this time, if you were wealthy, you paid other people to raise your kids, essentially. So you'd come in like before cocktail hour and be like, hey, kids, and like tuck them in. And that's like the only time they saw you, right? Like if you've ever seen The Crown, remember, King's Speech, the king comes in and kind of tells them that he never really like knew his parents because like he would see them for like an hour a day. Mm-hmm. That if you were wealthy, it was just like pretty much regular that you would not be raising your kids, right? But why they have a dog instead of a real person, unclear. Though she does a damn good job.
Save money. She's great. I mean, she's OCD, but she's like great. She's really attentive. She needs things in a certain order, but like it's fine. Whatever you're gonna do, Nana.
Nana's like the best part of this movie.
She's the best. She's my favorite. Yeah. So the mom and dad are getting ready for like a wild night on the town, some party somewhere, and Wendy's like doing, apparently she tells a lot of stories, so they're all into this Peter Pan, like everyone's into Peter Pan, blah blah blah, Peter Pan's the best. The boys like doing their sword fights and stuff like that. The dad is like sick as fuck, is just sick of it. Like he's like, this is nonsense. There's no such thing as Peter Pan. Like, where are my cufflinks? And he's just like, business, business, business. Meanwhile, he decides to take his rage out of like falling into a block pile that he wasn't looking and fell into, and decides to take it out on poor Nana and like evicts her from the nursery and like puts her outside, which was like, really awful. And like, I mean, we'll get to it, but I have a comment. So then he's like, oh, by the way, Wendy, like, I think you're too old for the nursery. You're going to have to grow up. Sorry, bye. And it's like she's going to be put to death or something, or like executed. No! And she's like, I
my god! And
Everybody's so upset and crying. I'm like, what's going on? Is she? When I was little, I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, is she dead? Is she dead? Is she dying?
In like modern day terms, you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Because if your parents were like, hey, you get your own room, you'd be like, yeah, finally. Like, I don't have to live with my little brothers anymore. But for some reason, Wendy is like crushed. And that is because you learn eventually that it means she has to grow up. And she doesn't want to grow up yet because apparently, like, again, kind of against what we know now, little kids like are all ready to grow up because they want to. They don't want to go to bed. They don't want to brush their teeth anymore. And when you're a grown up, you don't have to do those things, apparently, right? Or that's what kids think. But Wendy, like, does not want to grow up because she equates growing up with no more stories, right? No more imagination. That suddenly when you grow up, when you hit this kind of new phase of your life, that like you can't have stories anymore, which is so sad.
Right. It doesn't really make sense. My question is, why does Wendy have to grow up, but John can be a 45-year-old British accountant and just be fine? You know, like that's okay. I guess he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to grow up.
I really don't.
But it's bullshit. And like I don't know how old Wendy's supposed to be. I'm like, I'm really concerned she's supposed to be like 7 years old.
It's like she's 10 or older. Yeah. I want to say she's 10. John's
but like,
8.
What does growing up really mean? You know, like, is Wendy gonna have to get a job? Like, what's going on?
Or is she gonna have to do like bullshit woman chores in the house? Is
probably.
that what growing
like,
up
get
means?
the firewood?
Because hell
like,
yeah,
probably,
I don't want to grow up either.
I want to do that.
Like
shit.
I got to do housework
No,
while my brothers are like,
you.
"Yay, let's play pirates!"
Right? It's
Hell
stupid.
no.
So, anyways, they kick Nana out. They like put everybody to bed. And they're like, "Don't we'll talk about this tomorrow." Meanwhile, the mom's like, "Oh, I don't know. I feel weird leaving them without Nana," and it's like. Okay, first of all, I have concerns that your number one security for your children is being kept by a dog who seems like not vicious enough to attack anyone. I just find it very funny that they're like, oh, let's just leave our children. It's like, even though they were leaving her with Nana all this time, they still have been leaving them alone for however many years with a dog. So I don't think you should be so concerned, Mama
and
darling.
then when he's like, Nana, like, this has to stop. Like, you're a dog and the kids aren't puppies. Like, it's her fault that, like, she's left in charge to watch the kids. I'm like, did she apply for this job? Like, I don't think so. You're just trying to cheap out.
She thought she was going to go
Let's
to a
use
nice
the
dog. And, like, who's going to raise them if I don't? George Darling or whatever. Like, hello. So, it's interesting. Anyways, so we go to bed, yada, yada. Meanwhile, Wendy's like, saying weird things to her mom, and her mom's like, I'm kind of worried about Wendy. She thinks that she may have found like a stalker or something because she's talking about Peter Pan's shadow. And the mom's like really freaked out by it, but she's like, oh, well, the dog will take care of it in the yard. So then the Peter Pan does show up because he's back to reclaim his shadow that Nana caught last time he was, snooping around. So he's looking for where the shadow is. They find it in the desk. Him and Tinkerbell, his little pixie friend. Very short dress, but cute shoes. But, she's a crazy bitch. So this wakes Wendy up. He's like, as loud as possible, like getting his shadow back. Wendy's like completely unfazed. It's unclear to me, like, is this the first time they've talked? But she's like, launches right into it, just like yap, 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 just like I'm doing right now. It's like, are you gonna breathe, woman? Like, calm down. So then the boys wake up and they're all very excited. And then, so like, why does Peter like need Wendy to come back right away? Because he doesn't think of the mother thing until she's like, oh, but blah, blah,
Wendy
blah.
confesses to him that she's got to grow up tomorrow. Remember the whole
and
discussion.
He like freaks out.
Goes,
Yeah.
What? You can't grow up? No one should grow up. You got to come to Neverland with me. So she's supposed to go by herself, and then she goes, like, I gotta wake up. Something gets bounced around, and the boys wake up. So that's how like they wake up. So then she's gonna take her with them to Neverland, and then they have the little flying scene.
Yeah.
So he tells them.
Yeah, he's like, it's
This is
easy to
how
get
you fly.
to Neverland, and like gives sings this song, like, think of a happy thought, and then they can't
thought.
fly, and he's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And he's like, oh right, I forgot.
Yeah.
You need
I don't
pixie
think it's
dust.
a happy thought at all. I think it's just pixie dust.
know.
What a con.
It's pretty bullshit. So then they get it, and they're off, flying through the sky. Really cool, really lovely, like flying through the London night sky and like landing on Big Ben. I think that's really cool and
it's really
memorable.
pretty.
And then they're like, second star to the right, and straight on through morning. I'm like, what? Like, okay, what time is it? And they have to fly until morning. So what?
Takes a while to get there.
Okay, but then like, how do they get when they get? It seems like they've only been gone for like an hour by the time the parents get back,
Yeah.
right?
Well, remember, like, time is different in Neverland.
What is happening? So they show up in Neverland, and it's very exciting. Next, we meet Captain Hook, who, his mission in life is to kill Peter Pan, his like arch nemesis. Unfortunately, he also has this crocodile who's been after him. Won't leave him alone. Seems to be really stressful for old Captain Hook, for old Jas Hook. And he's just like, he definitely has some PTSD, I think, going on with the crocodile. There's a lot of mental illnesses in this movie now that I think about it.
And the old thing is, so Captain Hook for a hand, Peter Pan cut it off and fed it to the crocodile. Remember that whole thing? But the crocodile also swallowed his alarm clock.
Why?
Unclear on how that happened. And so luckily they always know he's around because there's a tick. Ding, ding, ding. Dun, 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 dun. Gets really stuck in your head after you watch this. Here's my question for you. Okay, his name is Captain Hook, but then he ends up getting a hook. How did that happen? Was he only Captain Hook after he had a hook for a hand, or he was always Captain Hook?
Maybe after he had a hook for him.
He changed his name.
I think he was Captain Jas. Captain Jas Hook. Captain James Hook. I don't know. Codfish? I don't know.
Maybe he was Captain Hoob or something. When he had a hook for a hand, he's like, you know what? It's so close. I'm going to change it.
That's not how it works. That's silly. So they spot Peter Pan in the sky, and they're like, great, now's our chance. Let's kill him. So they launch some cannonballs. Peter's like, go on, follow Tink to the Lost Boys. I'm going to stay here and distract him, Captain Hook. So Tinkerbell is like, oh, great, I have a great idea. So she, like, flies ahead, and Wendy and the boys can't even,
You missed the part where she hates Wendy.
Oh, yeah. She hates Wendy because Peter's kind of, is basically enamored with her, but, like, not really. He just wants her to be his mom. Like, I never really got that sense that, like, Peter was into Wendy. But, of course, for Tink, it's like any attention to a woman is very upsetting to her.
Right.
Peter's her number one, and well,
Tink, what is that relationship with Peter?
Right, that's
and
what
Tink?
I'm saying.
This is the big mystery.
I think we need to,
this whole
I think we
movie,
need to, get on with it, Tink.
And I gotta say, that scene in the cave was weird. We'll talk about it, but I was weirded out.
I had no memory of that.
Like, Peter's supposed to be a little boy, and every woman on the island is like enamored with him. Like, he is the hottest shit. And
don't know why. Yeah, he
compared to
sucks.
everyone else on the island, you have Lost Boys who are like,
He's got a small
tiny
head.
little-
He's got like weird teeth.
pointy ears, like weird looking. But he's definitely like the cutest out of all the weird 5 o'clock shadow pirates.
I'm kind of
like
into
the
the
Lost
skunk.
Boys
I'm
who
into
are
the
basically
skunk. I think
toddlers.
the skunk is cute, or the fox. The fox is cute.
They're tiny children. So at least he's like a teenager, I guess. But anyway, yeah, Tink has got to be the number one woman in his life. What does she think about the mermaids? Anyway,
Right.
so
She's trying to kill them on the regular.
yeah, so she's got to kill Wendy though. That's her mission.
So she goes ahead, alerts the Lost Boys. There's a Wendy bird. Shoot it down. Peter said to shoot it down. So they go to do that, and they all fire their weapons at Wendy, and she like falls out of the sky and is about to plunge to her death on these like really sharp rocks. And Peter saves the day, and he's like, what happened here? And they're like, Wendy said it was Tink said it was a Wendy bird. And then, so he banishes, big move, bold move, banishes, like Dixie, Tinkerbell banishes her from the group or like Neverland,
No, just like out
from
away
like,
from
the Lost
the
Boys.
club.
Yeah, the club, whatever club that is.
Club.
Bold move. So Tink's, super pissed. She's super pissed. So now Peter takes them on a tour. He's like, Wendy, let's go see the mermaids. Meanwhile, the boys decide to go hunt the Indians because they really wanted to see that. I would like to state for the record that John said he would just like to see the Indians, and then Peter Pan was like, "Yeah, go hunt some Indians." And it's like, okay, that wasn't what I said. I wanted to just see them. But whatever. So then we have these two scenes, and they go to Wendy and Peter go to see the mermaids, and the mermaids behave exactly like Tinkerbell, and are immediately like, "Who's this girl?" And they're like, "Let's get her wet," and then they splash her, and then they're like trying to pull her into the water, and Peter's just like laughing like an asshole, and Wendy's like really concerned for her life, and is getting to the point where she's going to pick up a shell to murder them. And Peter's like, "Whoa, they were just kidding." And the mermaid's like, "Yes, we just wanted to drown her." And Peter's like, "Isn't that funny?" And Wendy's like, "No, it's not fucking funny." Like,
Well, even worse about that scene is that she's like, all she wanted to do was see the Mermaid Lagoon, okay? Her happy thought was literally the Mermaid Lagoon. So
It's
clearly
true.
she's very excited. She sees the mermaids and she's like, Peter's like, "You want to go meet him?" And she's like, "Yeah, cool." And he just like fucking leaves her there. I don't know why she can't fly at this point, because she's literally climbing down and scaling rocks to get down to the Mermaid Cove. He goes down there, starts flirting with the mermaids. He's telling them stories. He like forgets Wendy even fucking exists. Finally, they're like, "Who the fuck is that?" And he's like, "It's Wendy." So that whole scene just pisses me off, because it just sounds like, your boyfriend's like taking you along and showing you sights, and he's like, "Oh, there's my friends. Hey, friends," and just like leave your girlfriend there like to fend for
yeah,
herself.
he's the worst boyfriend.
What up with that?
in the history of the world? Pretty much. Meanwhile, the boys get captured by the very same Indians they were off to get. And what's happened there is that the Indians believe that the Lost Boys took Tiger Lily, which is the chief's daughter. They're like, "No, we didn't. We never saw her. Like, we didn't do it." But you know who took Tiger Lily, sweetie?
Captain Hook.
Captain Hook. Because it was his bright idea to figure out like where Peter Pan's hideout is by like capturing Tiger Lily, and she'll tell them. Like, I don't know if she's been there. I'm like unclear if she's actually been there or not, or what their relationship is. They do seem very close at
What is his
at the
relationship
gathering.
with everyone?
Right. I think
Sketchy.
he's sleeping with
I think he's
everyone.
sleeping around.
It seems very clear to me. Maybe even with some of the guys, some of the pirates, I think could swing both ways. You know what I'm saying? So, So meanwhile, Wendy and Peter see Captain Hook like rowing Tiger Lily to Skull Cave or whatever. And they follow him, and they're gonna drown Tiger Lily unless she tells them where Peter Pan's hideout is. So Peter Pan does this whole like cutesy thing and like shenanigans, blah blah blah. And then they save Tiger Lily and fly her off back to her home. The chief is very excited. He like presents Peter Pan with this like ceremonial headdress and makes him like part of the tribe. Wendy's again relegated to gathering firewood. Seems to be the only job that she can do, even though Tiger Lily's enjoying herself. I guess she's a princess, so it's okay. But meanwhile, Captain Hook has learned that from hearsay from the again, I don't know where they heard this from, but the pirates have been talking.
A lot of gossip on this island.
Yeah, a lot
Really
of
gets
gossip.
around.
It's a small island. There's only like 3 places you can go to. Right. It seems a little dry in terms of entertainment. Like they're just doing the same thing every day. Like, oh, let's catch the Indians and then they'll catch us. So anyways, Hook finds out that Peter banished Tinkerbell. So he's very interested by that. So he's like, ooh, let's get Tinkerbell. So they like hatch this whole like scheme to get Tinkerbell to like give up the location of the hideout. And they do that by like, talking about Wendy, like, we can get rid of Wendy for you. And Tink's like, yes. So Tink agrees to like tell them where the hideout is if they leave Peter alone. But like, hello, Tinkerbell, like, he's not going to leave Peter alone. Like, get with it. Snap out of it.
A jealous woman will believe anything.
So then they carry out the plan. They catch Wendy and the kids, and then they leave a bomb timed to go off at 6 p.m. for some reason. I don't know why they couldn't make it. I mean, make it go off right away. Like, why are we delaying this?
So at this point, Wendy's like, I want to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, she's like, this place sucks.
It sucks. For good reason, for all the reasons we've described previously. She's being treated by a slave. She's being ignored.
Her little
She almost
brother
got killed.
Her little brother can't tell the difference between his mom and a dog.
Right. So this is when she like kind of freaks
Concerned.
out, and she's got to explain to people who a mother is, and she sings this whole song. Everybody gets weepy, and then they're like, I want my mom. So she's like, we got to get the fuck out of here. And so they're like, okay. And the Lost Boy's like, I want to come too. So she's like, oh, I'm sure my mother wouldn't mind. Yeah. Like, come on. Like, 12 kids dressed as animals.
Inviting
like,
your friends over for dinner times 20. You're like, hey, do you want to?
Pretty
it's like,
funny.
It's like Chunk in the Goonies, or it's like, come on, you can live with us. Like, you gonna run that by your mom first?
so great. They're all going to live in the nursery,
Hey,
huh?
mom, here's 10 orphans.
Yeah. So they're like, sweet. And, you know, Wendy feels kind of bad about it because Peter at this point is pouting because, you know, he's never going to grow up.
Yeah.
And fine, like, that's just Dick. You stay here by yourself on your little island, and you're going to have to fetch your own firewood and, you know, because there's no one here to do it for you. He stays, he's pouting, and she's like, bye, Peter, and just leaves, which I'm like, good for you, because she didn't make, like, a big deal out of it. That Wendy is a strong gal.
Bye.
So they leave the house, and then they, you know, Captain Hook's pirates are outside, and they all kidnap them and bring them back to the ship, right? Meanwhile, as you said, they drop a present that says to Wendy, open at 6 o'clock, with a bomb in it.
To Peter from
To Peter from
Love Wendy.
Yeah.
Open at 6 o'clock.
Yep. They're back on the pirate ship.
Yeah. So then they're like, okay, you guys are gonna have to walk the plank. And Wendy's like,
you want to be pirates. Tries to convert them.
oh, tries to convert them to pirates, which briefly works. And the Lost Boys and the John and Michael decide, yeah, let's be pirates. You know, they're very wishy-washy. They're like, they can't stick with one, you know, one thing. They just like, oh, ice cream, ooh, cookies, ooh, this. Like, they're crazy. So when he's like, no, we're not going to be pirates. She's like, we want to, like,
We will never join your crew.
We'll never join your crew.
We will never join your crew.
And she's like, Peter will save us, okay? And Captain Hook's like, no, he won't, because I put a bomb in his. He's going to open it in 5 minutes. And then Tink hears that and like freaks out, busts out of her like little prison, which I guess you could get out of this whole time, and then you know, flies like crazy over there. Tries to get. I don't know why they haven't learned how to understand like Tinkerbell after all this time. Like, it just seems like you should be able to like understand her language. But basically, she takes the package.
He did, because he's like, a bomb? No, like, no way. He didn't believe it was a bomb because it said it was from Wendy. Like, why would it be a bomb? And he knows that she
Right.
doesn't like Wendy,
Right.
so it was like a confusing thing.
Okay, yeah. So she takes the package and like tries to fly away with it. It seems to explode immediately.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think she got very far,
No.
and I'm pretty sure it exploded
she'd be
like
blown
in the
to
hideout.
pixie dust.
But I feel like Peter Pan would have too.
Yeah.
But so the guys on the ship see that and they're like, oh, I guess Peter's not coming. And so Wendy very bravely, you know, walks to her death anyways. Meanwhile, you know, in the wake of the explosion, everyone seems fine. And Peter's like, Tink. And then like, is like, Tink, you're more important to me than anything else in this world.
Where did that come
Oh, okay.
In what way? As a friend? As a girlfriend? Like, what's going on here?
What's happening?
Yeah, it was a strange scene. It was like way too much emotion for Peter. You're like, wait a minute, you don't care about anybody but yourself.
Right. It didn't make sense. But I guess, I mean, this is the whole like, clap your hands if
Right.
you believe. So then, like, I
Right.
guess that, like, saved Tinkerbell's life. And so she was fine and unscathed, really, which is quite impressive.
She just wanted some feel some love.
So, you know, as Wendy is jumping off the plank, he comes and saves her. And then there's this whole brawl. And the Lost Boys fighting against the pirates. You know, long story short, the Lost Boys win.
Yeah.
And Captain Hook gets chased off by the crocodile. And then Peter takes the ship over and decides that Wendy's right. They're going to go back to London. They belong. That's where they belong. So Tinkerbell coats the whole ship in pixie dust, and they go off to London. The Darlings have returned from their, you know, fabulous party to find Wendy like asleep at the window. And she tells them, like, oh, you're back. Like, Peter just dropped us off. And the mom's like, what? And the dad's like, you're crazy. Like, I'm glad we decided that you're going to grow up. And she decides she does want to grow up now.
Well, the dad feels bad, remember, and he's like, Wendy doesn't have to move out of the nursery.
You don't have to. But she's like, no, I want to.
she
Like, it
Because
sucks.
she's like, I'm done with these stories. I'm done with Peter Pan. No, just kidding.
sucks.
She's still like really obsessed with him, which I was really disappointed by.
Right.
He really is the greatest.
Like,
I'm
is
no,
he not? I don't think so.
Why?
Wendy. But then they see the ship, and I mean, really, it just looks like clouds, but whatever. And the mom is like, "Oh my God, like George!" And then is his name George? I keep saying that. I feel like that's not right. But
right.
he sees it. The dad sees it, and he's like, "Whoa!" He's like, "You know, I've had the strangest feeling. I've seen that before when I was a boy." And you're like, "Oh, right. Our parents were kids once too." But it's still like, okay, but he still seems like Captain Hook's never redeemed. I'm just unsure of like why they have that be the same character as the dad. Like, what is the message we're trying to get? Like, the dad is a villain,
Right. Why
but the
would
dad
he-
was okay.
Why
Captain Hook
would
wasn't
he
okay.
have seen the pirate ship? Why would he have seen the Captain Hook side of things? That's right. I was thinking it was just like a Peter connection.
I thought it was no. That's what.
But it's Captain Hook's ship.
Because it's a part of Neverland.
He went to Neverland. Is the
Or just like
idea.
read the story and then like got like isn't that the thing? Like you read the Peter Pan story and then you imagination takes over.
I mean, they don't do a good job because in the book there's some setup of like who Peter Pan is and like what this story is, and they completely left that out of the Disney book and just jumped to straight to the kids just talking about him, and that was like intentional. They didn't want to have all that build up, and they felt like they didn't need to explain it. So I don't know. I don't know like what the idea is with like. Is Peter Pan just like a story people? Is it like a Santa Claus that like, you know, kids just know
That's
about
kinda what I
this?
thought.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. It's sort of this like London myth that there's this little boy who never grows up who is like bouncing around in Neverland. I don't know.
But like coming also to like listen to our stories and then like
Yeah.
go back to Neverland.
Because Peter is the reason his shadow gets taken is because he's listening outside the window of Wendy telling stories about himself. Narcissist.
Narcissist.
So, yeah, so it must be like, just like a tale that like all kids know. Anyway, so Wendy thankfully grows up. Who knows about John and Michael? They still have some time to go. And that's where the story ends.
Yeah. The
Sweetie,
end.
did Captain Hook make it? Do you think he ever got eaten by that crocodile?
I'm gonna go with
There's always a cat and
yeah,
mouse
he
game.
seems to always just escape.
Never gets into that jaw.
He's just so wiry, you know, like he can't fit.
spaghetti legs.
Yeah, he just like, can't get in there. I don't
like
know.
I said, they were really stressful, but I really enjoyed those scenes and like all the different ways the crocodile was like trying to
I
eat him.
hate Captain Hook without his hat on.
I know.
Like his
I
hair.
hate those like
his,
weird,
like
frizzy little bangs.
well, it's
They
like
look when I-
Inigo Montoya.
when I
hair.
had those bangs.
yeah, or like Inigo Montoya. Yeah, yeah. And
I like Captain Hook, and then sometimes it's like his hair's all mussed, but it's also kind of like wet, and I hate also when his like clothes are all torn.
yeah, he just like looks like a vagrant, like awful, scary person, and he gets all like manic and weird.
Yes.
Um,
And I told Sweetie this, like, I didn't remember that Captain Hook was such a crybaby. Because, like, in, I guess, the Hook live, the Steven Spielberg movie, which we've already covered, like, Hook's a pretty, like, tough guy in that one. He's, like, I mean, there's, like, a femininity to him, I guess. But, like, this one, he's a legit crybaby and cries, like, all the time. Mostly around the crocodile, but, like, in other
But
cases,
it's just like
too.
the dad. It's like
Yeah.
he just like explodes and then like
Yeah.
we'll be
It's
fine.
very
And he'll be like,
emotional.
oh, the crocodile's me.
Yeah.
Help me.
Right, so he's like super tough and scary, and then he always wants like silly,
So
scary.
dramatic.
Yeah, he's very over dramatic.
Everybody's dramatic. Yes, but so my favorite parts when I was little were Nana, obviously. So there's this part in this movie that every time I like think about it, I cry a little on the inside and like really gets to me. But the part I cannot handle is when they're all flying to Neverland and then like, you know, little Michael, good intentions, but doesn't follow through and is like, oh, Nana should come with us. So he sprinkles pixie dust on Nana and then she starts flying up. But then Michael's like, come on, Nana, and doesn't stop and make sure she's okay. After all, she's a dog, just realizing she's flying for the first time. But she's still attached to the fucking rope, Michael. And so Nana's stuck and then does this sad little wave like, bye, kids.
You know what she looked like? The floats in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, like the way they like had the camera on her, like
Just so
connected, and she's like,
sad.
"Ah."
I just
Yeah, it
feel
was
so
really
bad
sad.
for her. But then at the same time, I'm like, what would it have been like if Nana came along this whole time? Maybe she would have eaten Tinkerbell right away and we'd have none of these problems.
But
Just going to say.
you know, it comes around at the end. She gets back into the house, and she's back being like the little nursemaid, and that's really cute. So it's okay.
Thank
it ends up being all right.
Yeah, so that was my like favorite scene. I did love the mermaids when I was little.
Even though
thought they
they're
were pretty
terrible,
hot, even
but
though they're terrible people.
Really
but
pretty, and
really pretty.
and total fast forward to like some of the touches from the Little Mermaid. I feel like I saw some
Yeah.
similarities.
Yeah,
there, which
with
was
the
cool.
shell boobs and the like lily pads on
The
heads
stuff in their
and stuff
hair.
like that.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of
headpieces.
Fantasia too, but yeah, but very lovely. Who doesn't love a slutty mermaid?
Yeah.
I mean, I love them. Obviously,
One didn't even have shell boobs.
okay,
It was hair
so
over
I
her
thought
boobs.
that, but then later when they're
like moved?
yeah, her hair moved, and they were like
Oh.
individual shells, like not attached in the
No,
middle.
that was a different one.
No, like one here, one
Yeah,
here.
that was a different mermaid,
Right, but if
not
your
the one with
hair
the
was
hair.
over it, let's rewind it because pretty sure that I did think that also.
Yeah, I
but
don't
yeah.
know.
I was like, "Where's your bra, slut?" Just kidding. It's fine if you want to be naked. Women power. So that part, and then my other favorite part was, and Sweetie enjoyed this part as well, is when Smee's trying to shave Captain Hook's face, and a seagull like comes and lands on Captain Hook's like toweled face, and then Smee shaves the seagull's butt instead and like slaps like aftershave on it, and the seagull's like, "What the?" and then like looks at his butt and is like, "Fuck."
I think it's a woman seagull just from the way she's like long eyelashes. So she's and the look on her
woman.
face when she realizes her
Awful.
butt is shaved is like priceless. Oh my god, it's so funny. And like I don't know, like
I
he
don't
said,
know.
I just like love the shaving.
Yeah.
So he like if you've ever had that like or seen the old shaving thing where it's like a sudsy in a cup and then it's like a brush and it brushes all on there and then it's a straight razor, right? So like the shaving of the feathers, it looks kind of like a turkey by the end, and I don't know why that part is just
No,
funny.
it's just
and
funny.
Then, like, the
yeah,
towel, I don't
I
know.
just like it, and I remembered it. I just remember it so well. But yeah, and those are really the main parts. I think that I loved as a kid. So yeah.
Yeah.
What do you remember? Anything?
Yeah, that one the same. I do remember liking the mermaid stuff. I didn't really remember too much of the Native American parts, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, those were like the big scenes. Like you, I didn't really remember the ending fight scene almost at all. I remember most of the Tinkerbell stuff. I'd say. I mean, she's like probably the most famous character to come out of this. Like that image is and just taken as like basically like Disney, right? Like she's all over Disney
Yeah.
World. It's like, do you remember like the magical world of Disney where
Right. She
she
comes
like,
and does the thing.
Yeah. So I feel like that sort of, no matter like you might be too young for this movie, but you know who Tinkerbell is, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a mascot.
Yeah, exact mascot.
I don't know why we picked crazy bitch to be our mascot.
I
but
know,
whatever.
I know, and it's like she is crazy and
She's really ruthless.
and rude and pretty horrible. So you're like, wait a minute, yeah, I just didn't remember her being that rude.
Although,
but
I mean,
she's
I
pretty
do
bad.
appreciate her just like no nonsense. Like when Peter's like, "Tink, did you try to kill Wendy? Guilty or not guilty?" And she's like, "Yeah, I did it. So what?" And
Yeah.
like walks away.
Yeah, she's a
I
funny
mean, I
character.
admire that sass.
She's a
but
pixie.
I think what surprised me the most about this movie was just like it was really like violent
Yeah.
in a way of like they didn't care if people died or not.
And
Not saying a
talking
lot of
about
people
violence.
died, but
Talking
yeah,
about
but talking
violence.
about it and being like, "I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna slit your throat," like
Yeah.
that kind
I
of
know,
thing.
I
And you're
was
like,
like,
"Whoa,
whoa,
this is
whoa.
very like anti-Disney
Yeah.
nowadays,
It
where
did
like
feel-
things don't die."
Right.
And this, like, I mean, one of my other favorite parts though is like when this like pirate accordion player is like singing this song, and then Hook's like obviously annoyed by it, and he's like, and like gets his gun and just shoots him, and he falls off the crow's nest. I think that's really funny. So there are really clever parts of this movie, but I think that there's just some like problematic parts of this movie. A lot of it, more than I remembered.
Right.
For sure.
Right, and for such like a simple movie, you're like, okay, this is like fantasy and it's supposed to be fun, and you're like, wait, you introduced like so many issues here. So what else I was gonna say? Okay, so what do you know about J.M. Barrie, the author of this story?
Pretty sure he was like a pedophile, right?
Yeah, so I did some research because I remember that had come out kind of recently. The story's kind of still out on that. So J.M. Barrie, Scottish, wrote a lot of plays and stories, including this one. And he lived next door to this family of boys and became really close to the mother. And they had this sort of relationship. I don't know if it was like they were both married to other people, but it sounds like they were pretty cozy. And then she died, and she like wrote a will, and he like basically was like, I'll copy the will over for like the family or whatever, and then change some of it so he would have like custody of the boys.
Ew.
It's very strange. So he was very close to these little boys, and the story of Peter Pan comes out because he had the boy named Peter dress up like Peter Pan, and he took all these photos, and that was like the inspiration.
Took
And then-
photos of the boy.
yeah, all dressed up as Peter.
Ew.
His name was Peter too, and he made this story about this Peter Pan based on the little boy Peter to entertain the other brothers. So that's like where the story was born from. And then, but he maintained a relationship with the boys for his whole life. The boys never said anything or confessed anything, but like maybe they wouldn't because like
Oh, hello, Michael Jackson.
yeah, and also it was just like, I mean, embarrassing no matter what, but in that time period, you know, obviously when homosexuality and if you're linking it to that, but like 3 out of the boys died very tragic deaths, and Peter, the one that Peter Pan was based on, ended up committing suicide later in life. So,
Okay. Well, I think
yeah,
that's a clear
it se-
indication.
And I don't know if that's what they've like led to think. I don't know. He seemed like a little bit of a sketchy dude. I know that Finding Neverland movie came out and that everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is such a great story," but I don't know.
I've
It
still
seems
never
like-
seen that.
Me neither, but
I don't really care to.
I think it's like more to it. Johnny Depp is J.M. Barrie, and I want to say Kate
Who has
Winslet
his
is,
own
like,
problems.
the mom. Yeah,
But it makes sense that, a super sexist and racist story would be written by, a pedophile. Like, now it all makes sense.
and it said he was friends with like a lot of little boys and children.
Okay, so he's Michael Jackson, which is
Yeah,
interesting
right.
because Michael Jackson
I
named
know,
his
I
ranch
know.
Neverland Ranch.
And it's like you want to say, is that never not sketchy? Like, why would you have all these
No, there's no reason.
be like
no
so
reason
friendly
to.
with all these kids? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, they don't have any evidence, and I don't think it's just something that has been like tossed around. The guy is long since dead, and so is everyone involved. But yeah, it seems like a sketchy thing. Anyway, I've never read the book, but apparently, he's depicted Peter Pan as quite a sociopath in that book.
Well, I got it here too. I was
Yeah.
like, he sucks.
Yeah.
He's the worst.
There's
Yeah.
something about like him threatening the Lost Boys, like that he would, if the Lost Boys grew up, he would like kill them.
Yeah,
'cause he didn't
I mean,
want
he
anyone
was,
to grow up on the island.
He's a couple words away from that here, pretty much.
And then
Like,
Walt Disney like thought that this presentation of the animated one, like Peter Pan was unrelatable and nobody liked him and stuff. So that was interesting. That
they
he,
thought that he was unrelatable in this
in
and
the movie,
Peter in Disney.
yeah.
I mean, I hated him, but I thought because I'm like a smart
I just think
woman.
it's a hard character to like. I mean, he's like cocky and fun.
Well, I
but
thought
that's
he was
about
supposed to
it.
be cool, and I thought little
Yeah.
boys liked that. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think they do. I think girls were like, "Oh
Yeah.
god, this guy sucks."
Okay, good.
But
Yeah.
I think
I'm
a
not gonna
lot
fall for his bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. But he's just like a cocky little boy, and everyone wants to grow up.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the Native American stereotypes? There's a bunch of them.
Not really. I feel like, what's the purpose of that? We know these exist. It's upsetting. Yeah.
Yeah, like I
There's not
said,
much
it
to
was
say
just
about
a
it.
pot of let's throw every single American stereotype in there that we have, which are grounded in some truth, but mostly just representative of different cultures. All had like different things to them, and you would just kind of lump them into like this is like an engine. So yeah, so that's like kind of terrible, but yep, it was how the whole red face thing, tomahawks, teepees, feathers in your hair, the headdress,
And they
the peace pipe.
They draw them without out eyes, like without humanistic characteristics, which is
Or like a big nose.
very upsetting. Yeah, and bright red, just like really awful stuff.
Except Tiger Lily, who looks like
Right.
a darker skinned Wendy. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's bullshit.
yeah.
It was like beautiful, like
Or
huge
Tinkerbell.
eyelashes.
All the women
and,
looked
like,
exactly the same.
like Wendy. Yeah,
They were like little templates, and they're just like, okay, we'll change your eye color, and we'll just give you like a slight different hairstyle. I mean, that's kind of how Disney works. If like you think
Right.
about like
In
the
the-
Disney
well, in the
princesses
early days, yeah.
and the big eyes and all that stuff. Okay, and then my last thing is, I'm pretty sure there's a Peter Pan ride at Disney World.
yes,
Right? We did not go on it, or we did.
I feel like we went on it when we went back, like when I was in college.
Okay.
We went to Disney World
Okay,
then.
yeah.
Or maybe we didn't, because there's always a really long wait. Maybe that's what it was. I think we didn't because there's always a long line for
Peter
Peter Pan.
Pan's Flight or something.
Peter
it's
Pan,
called.
yeah, like it had its own countdown that like
Yeah.
Splash Mountain has like an hour wait or something. I'm like,
Yeah.
for Peter Pan, like what is this? So I think we went on Snow White or something instead.
Yeah,
But I think
you're
it's like
right.
a popular ride.
Yeah.
I guess just because of like the flying element, but it probably sucks.
Right.
All those
I
ones
think
kind
you're
of
in,
suck.
like, gliders, I want to
Yeah.
say. So, but then I was confusing it with, because we definitely did go on Pirates of the Caribbean, which is like kind of terrifying, if you remember this, sweetie. So this is the one we went on as like a family, because it's like very dark and there's a big drop at one point.
Yeah, well, it's not super. It's not huge. It's not like Splash Mountain.
No,
big. It's
but
just
it's
like
a
it's
slope.
like a little dip. I think
Yeah.
there's a bigger drop in the Norway ride, but the Pirates one I remember being not as scary.
I was still pretty scared.
Yeah, but like I was
came
afraid
out
of
of nowhere.
everything, and I was like okay with it. It was just really small. Like it wasn't a big one. I don't know. But more scary to me are all the like pirate wax scary figures.
Well, I
and
can't believe that's
blah.
still a ride. It just seemed like kind
Well, now of course
okay.
you know they've stuck Johnny Depp in all these
Right.
spots, so it's okay.
And
so
we saw that
I mean,
version of it.
That's the real motivation behind pirate. Like, why did they make Pirates of the Caribbean movie? Probably so they could keep that ride around for
I
another like
know.
50 years. So I mean, I don't, whatever.
I mean, pirate stuff is always pretty fun to me, I will say. Like, that part, like, I enjoyed the pirate sections of this movie. Like, the pirates are funny. Like, the little shenanigans they get into, they do some jigs. I mean, they're just, like, their exchanges and how they interact is, like, pretty funny. And I remember from the Hook one, that was also, obviously, an
Right?
entertaining
Yeah,
part.
they're the funniest part. Yeah.
Don't forget
sure.
Glenn Close.
Oh my god, best Easter egg ever. And
David Crosby.
and Keith Richards.
Yeah.
No,
No.
that's just what Johnny Depp looks
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No,
So
Jimmy Buffett.
Jimmy Buffett. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Anyways, again, lukewarm feelings for us for Peter Pan, similar to Hook. You know, we're just like, I think we're just not sold on the narrative.
It's not a story for us.
Yeah.
You know?
We don't like it.
Yeah.
But I do have memories associated with this movie, and so I give it credit for that. But overall, I'm just very uncomfortable by most of the things in this movie. So I don't know, guys. I think it's tainted. I think it's dead. I think it's dead in the water, eaten by the crocodile. Anyways, have you seen this recently? Come find us on Twitter at the Sweetie Club or on Instagram at Large Marge Sent Us. Thank you, as always, for listening to our rants about sexism and racism. Bye.
Bye. Peter Pan, rape on us.
Totally.